All right, everyone, welcome to Deep Dives with Dogs. Well, today we're going to talk about the Toledo War. So, for those that are not really aware what the Toledo War is, the Toledo War is a faux war that never really leads to anything, but it is a war between the states, Ohio and Michigan. It is over the city of Toledo. A little bit more than just that. There's a strip of land that goes along with that, but it's mostly over the city of Toledo. This happens. It's about a 2-year war. There's only like little instances of bloodshed. Not really anything crazy, but it was a genuine idea that they might go to war against each other. Michigan and Ohio both claim the city of Toledo, which Toledo today, I know, doesn't have necessarily the best reputation, but historically and even still, it is a very important port city, very important trade city. A lot goes in and out of Toledo. This is before it's the city of glass. It's not really a city of glass no more, but its trade importance is still there. It has a lot of value for both states. Michigan is a much smaller state by both population numbers and economy at this point. So, of course, they would want this because it would give them a big boon. However, Ohio wants it because they feel, hey, this is important for us and our development. And, well, they kind of had a little bit of an earlier claim to it than maybe Michigan did. But both states claiming it, they kind of get a little, not physical really. There is a little bit of instance of violence, like I will talk about in a minute, but they do kind of flaunt themselves, like, oh yeah, if we're gonna go to war, we're gonna do this. A few times. No shots are fired, thankfully, but a lot of boasting and bragging definitely is in order. This is kind of a big deal of a war, not necessarily because of what actually happens during it, because really, realistically, it's not that important. I mean, it is in the degree like, oh, who gets Toledo and who gets the revenue from that and everything like that, but it's more important in it's such an early sign of what happens if two states decide to go to war. What happens? Can they go to war against each other? Are these independent states in part of a union, or is it a union with basically like zones that are these states that are something a little else? And that's kind of, this war is a very a sign of things of like, okay, well, how does this actually work? Can two states go to war? Because these two states do go to war. And so what is the results of this? Like I said, there was some bloodshed. A guy named Stickney, I believe. Stickney or Sticky, I don't remember exactly. That's really what he was called. I don't know his actual name. They don't say usually. But Stickney stabs a sheriff, Joseph Woods. I almost said James Woods, not the actor. No, Joseph Wood. Stabs Sheriff Joseph Wood from Michigan with a penknife. Wood will survive the stabbing, but lo and behold, this happens in a bar, so of course. But this is kind of a sign of like, maybe right now there's not any big, firing. But what happens if something like this happens again? What if people get upset and say, hey, we gotta fight each other for real? What happens then? Can these states go to war? As the tension keeps building and building and building, the U.S. federal government finally gets involved. This conflict goes on for like 2 years of building tensions and things like that before the U.S. government finally gets involved and says, whoa, this is going too far. Ohio gets Toledo, and as a recompense for Michigan, as something to just be like, you're not just getting screwed over, don't worry, they get the Upper Peninsula, which is something that people have always wondered. Why does Michigan have the Upper Peninsula and not Wisconsin? It makes more sense for Wisconsin to have it. It's just all connected. But the reasoning is because of this Toledo War. Michigan was losing out on quite a bit of trade. Land with people in it, population they're losing out a lot of. So as a recompense, they get the Upper Peninsula, which is high in resources. Upper Peninsula has a lot of resources for Michigan to exploit and allow them to grow. So it's kind of like a, hey, you don't get Toledo, but you get this. It's kind of like a hopefully you don't feel too upset. Thankfully, this conflict doesn't actually lead to anything. It doesn't lead to any actual fighting in the sense of two militias going out and firing upon each other. Because how do you kind of patch up that relationship if there is actual gunfire? It's not just a simple oh well, okay, but I guess we can get over it. It's these two people fought against each other, but thankfully it doesn't actually happen. Just a lot of boasting. But very, very interesting conflict. You can still kind of see the rivalry between Michigan and Ohio today. If you ever watch college football, Ohio State-Michigan game is very big in that area. So quite interesting. It's one of these mini microcosms that doesn't get really talked about. Oh, 1 second. All right, sorry about that. There was a big old semi going by, but it's one of those microcosms of this time period. It doesn't get really talked about in most American history, but it really should. It has a big impact on a lot of things. A lot of small ways in how we deal with states are really influenced by this. But yeah, very interesting conflict. Would have been interesting to see if they actually had gone to war, what would have really happened. But yeah, who will know? But that's going to do it for this video. If you guys like the video, leave a like. If anyone can improve on these videos, leave a comment down below. I always appreciate your feedback. And as always, subscribe. It really does help out the channel. Thank you.